Thank you for joining us for service today. We pray that you are blessed by the ministry of the Word.
There's a passage in the Bible talks about that, Jesus went to a place and he could there do no mighty work because of their unbelief. The converse of that is when there's belief. Oh, what the Lord could do, right? What does belief mean? Because you can believe the wrong thing. But if you just started that the Lord's good, that he loves me, that he knows where I'm at, a whole lot of possibilities open up from that. And, I believe he wants to teach us. He wants to talk to us. He wants to guide us, right? He doesn't, there's been thoughts of like a God that's, like an evil dictator up there and takes, just these, like a sadist and just, let me just throw this in their life and see how it messes it up. But that's not how he is, right? So why don't you go ahead and get seated. And I will try to be somewhat brief. Yeah, we'll see. No promises. But don't worry, I'll have some passages in there. I'm not going to do the traditional thing and have one right at the front because I want to save that for later, if that's okay. All right? I want to keep you guessing for a little while longer, though. But I'd like to start off with a little bit of story. It's a little biopic, a real interesting person, myself. No, not really. I was trying to think of something that would kind of set a little bit of the tone for tonight's lesson here. And, I thought of some personal experiences that I've had. When I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was to play baseball. Any baseball players? Anybody like play baseball? I've played every once in a while. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right over here. Yeah, yeah, big time. But I was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and, I was, my dad would sometimes take my two brothers and I was the middle child, and we'd go to a baseball field near my grandparents' house, and we'd just, pitch and throw and hit, and quite regularly I would hit a home run. I would pretty much always get a good, hit. I'd rarely miss the ball, and when it was my turn to field, I was, decent at fielding as well, and I just liked to play, and it was fun. And I remember my first time getting into Little League, and it was my first at-bat, and I was just so ready for this, and I struck out. I was so upset with myself because I had, up until that time, I don't remember ever striking out. I mean, I've gotten hit by a pitch and other things, but I wasn't striking out. When we'd play ball and with friends and family, I wouldn't strike out. Not that I would always get the greatest hit. Some of it was, I didn't quite make it to first base before someone threw me out, but that would happen, with other players that are pretty good, and that's just the way that it goes. But I was so upset. I remember just like I wanted to throw the bat. You ever have one of those days? You just want to get up and kick something, and then you break your toe, and then you're like, maybe I should have thought that through first, right? But there's a right way to lose, right? And I say that because, that wasn't the end of the story. I went on and actually our team that year won the Little League World Series thing. So we had a very good little track record there. We did good. I don't think we lost that game either. I don't remember exactly, but I was so upset with how I did, I couldn't really remember anything else, right? But several years later, when I was, just about in high school, and I was playing on a different team. Of course, I was way, too old for Little League now. But I was doing good in baseball, and I would always play pitcher and catcher because I just wanted to be involved in every single play. I loved playing. And I was pitching that game, and it was against the team that we were opposed to was the previous season's champions, and they were a good team. and I ended up throwing a no-hitter. Now, that's not a perfect game, but it's pretty good. It's very rare to, especially at that age, to get a no-hitter. So I threw a no-hitter. And I remember at the end of the game, my coach coming up to me, taking the game ball and just putting it right in my glove. And that's the way I say you were like the MVP of the game. And I was just like, oh, yeah. It's like when you have something happen like that, you feel like that you can just do no wrong. Just everything you touch is gold, right? You ever have those days? Yeah. Not too many. I haven't either. That was one of the few, right? But, there's times in our lives where we feel like we can do no wrong. Everything's just clicking. And then there's times that we just strike out, and we're just so upset with ourselves, and we feel like, woe is me, the world is coming to an end, I'm a failure. But again, I want to talk to you tonight about the right way to lose. Because losing happens. And I'm going to submit to you that losing is a good thing. I'll put some context into that, don't worry. But has it ever happened to you that despite your best efforts, your best intentions, you come up short? You ever fail a test? You ever, get something wrong? You ever disappoint somebody? You fight a battle, you end up losing. You try to do right, and you just miss the mark. And your intentions were all there, but you lost. I remember some pretty hard losses in my life. I literally lost a friend who died in high school. I lost, friends just, if we fell out or whatever the case might be. I lost a lot of time to really dumb things. And I remember when I first got in church, around the same time, a lot of other young guys came into the church at the same time, and it was awesome because I had a whole bunch of friends. And so we were all in church together. And that was for several years that we were just a really tight-knit group. To make a long story short, they all fell away around the same time, and that left a big hole in my heart, and I felt a big loss. There were other times where I was working with somebody, and I was teaching Bible studies to this kid who was just, recently off drugs, and they were making great strides, him and his friends, and they were just doing well. They were coming to some services, and not too long later, he relapsed, and then he ended up stabbing his friend and going to jail. And so that's another. It's hard not to feel like you lost and you didn't do something right when all your effort goes into something and it turns out that way. It's hard. It's hard to take that. It's hard not to let that eat at you, right? I have a list of names. I'm not going to read them tonight, I guess, but there's people that I'm thinking right now, and that I'm still praying for. And I just want to put a pin in that what I just said right now, because there's still, the book's not closed yet. That's one of the things that we need to keep in mind, because we go through these things, and a lot of these things we make at that moment as the end-all, be-all is a temporary position. It's not something that's going to be forever. And sometimes we need to step back and get a little perspective. But have you ever been in a period in your life, or a period in whatever the case might be, that you feel like you are set up to fail? Everything is going wrong. Just the sky is falling. Chicken Little is right on. And just nothing I can do is coming out right, despite my intentions. Now, if your intentions are bad, then that's on you, all right? And you and Jesus need to have a meeting. But it hurts when your intentions are good and the exact opposite of what you want to happen happens. The more you care about it, the more it hurts, right? And I've been in the place where I've had these conversations multiple times, especially a lot lately, with the Lord. Am I being set up to fail? Is this just entertainment for the angels? Just watch me flailing around down here, trying my best, and there he goes again. Have you ever seen somebody who really can't ice skate get out there? That's what I'm looking like in life. Well, sometimes it feels like, right? Just say, whoop, 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 boom. But again, how does it feel when you put your best in and your best isn't good enough? your best. My best is not good enough. That means I'm not good enough. And my worth is obviously not there. I'm not you get the point. You see the cascading effect that it has. And it starts, getting into your spirit. Right? There's a funny passage in the Bible that says, "Blessed are they that mourn." And all these other weird things. And it looks like they're losing. And Jesus says, "You're blessed." I don't feel so blessed in this moment, right? You ever been there? Blessed are you who mourn, because you're going to be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. All these other blessings, right? Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. You're a weird old Christian, whatever the case may be. But there is a right way to lose. Matthew 4:1 says, "Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil." Was he being set up? Was he being set up to fail? In James, it talks about, every man is drawn away of his own lust and enticed when lust has conceived, that brings forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, it brings forth death. And just before that, it says, "Let no man say when he's tempted, I am tempted of God." But here it says, Jesus was led into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. Well, both are true. He wasn't tempted of God. He was tempted of the devil. Right? But he was led into the temptation. He was allowed to go into that. He was going through that path, that potential challenge, that challenge, if you will. And he is our example. And we fall short of that example. We get tempted and we fall. Right? We mess up. But I want you to get this, that Jesus did show us a way. And in that means there is a way, and that I can find that way if I just learn from him. So one of the aspects of losing right is learning. Right? Put your hand on that oven, that stovetop, you pull it back, you learn. You don't do it again, right? Hopefully. But we need to take these lessons. And sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. Sometimes we go through the same thing over and over again, but isn't the Lord good that he's patient with us? Right? He's very good, because I know that I have done the loop-de-loop a few times. But in that passage, these passages where Jesus was led into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, could it be that I'm interpreting things as tending towards failure because I'm looking at the wrong goal, for example? Like, when these things are going wrong in my life, I'm getting, these things coming against me, therefore my life is bad. Well, Jesus had a rough time during that time, and he was Jesus. He wasn't doing anything bad. He was there for a reason. He was there for a purpose. And we can't see the purpose when we're in it, especially when it is something that is hits really close to home. Some of the things that I think about was some of the things I was alluding to when I have done my very best for somebody I care about, and it just feels like it blows up in my face. Those hurt, and it's hard not to take that right in there. But could it be, again, that my eyes are fixated on the wrong thing? What do we want to see when we pour ourselves into something? We want to see results, right? When I give all my heart and soul into something, I want to see results, but not just any results. I want to see what's baking up in my head, what I've already cooked up in my mind, my preconceived ideas of what success looks like. And so if I go out and if I teach a Bible study, I believe that person's going to be preaching in a year. That's just how it goes, isn't it? That's the natural progression of things. Well, it's not. Things happen. People fail. Things go sideways. And you had nothing to do with it. You had no control over that. But yet, we feel like it's a personal failure. And there is a good, deep lesson to be learned in that reaction that we're having. Because it actually is a sneaky source of pride. It's a way of validating yourself, right? And I'll get into that a little bit later, but that's a poison that we need to be careful of. Have you ever played air hockey? Anybody play air hockey? Who's the air hockey champion? Oh, okay. I have several. Okay, I will never play because I don't want my ego crushed. Okay, all right. But have any of you who played air hockey, have you ever, you know what a self goal is? It's when you go out and you're going to cram it down the other person's side and your hand goes wide and it hits it backwards right into your own goal. And you give them a point. You know, that's what we're doing sometimes with the devil. We're scoring a self-goal on ourselves. Because we set ourselves up for that failure because we're putting all this energy into it and bloop, oh man, he got a goal. And he didn't even do anything. It was all me. But in those times, again, of overwhelming difficulty, am I really being set up to fail? Or again, could it be that I'm not seeing it the right way? Because how does the Lord see it when you go out and you try to do something good? See, we're looking for results. God's looking for our heart. You know, who are the results up to? I mean, there's certain things that we need to do. Of course, you know, when God's working on us, you know, we're joining together with Him. But there's so many things outside in this world that we don't control. There's so many things that will go sideways regardless of our best efforts, because that's the way of the world. That's the whole creation is groaning and pained together until now. It's all messed up. It's all just a whole cesspool of ugly stuff. But I want you to know that you can't ever truly win if you don't have if you don't value the right things. If your target is tainted. You can hit the bullseye all day and still truly lose because you're hitting the wrong bullseye. We can go through these things and say, okay, I have to do this to be successful. I have to do this to be right. And if you line all those things up at the end of the day and you still feel empty, maybe there's a reason why. Or you still feel like, you know, I'm just pouring myself into a bottomless pit that's just going to ask more of me every day. And it's never going to be satisfied. I have to have this amount of money. I have to have all these things. I have to have all my kids have to just all be perfect and just just articulate and smart and all these things. Otherwise, I'm a complete failure. And we have all these settings, all these goals, all this criteria for what success looks like. But is that God's version of success? Is that God's version of the best you or what He wants for you? Is He holding you accountable for, you know, that thing that, you know, again, went sideways, or it didn't work out exactly like you had in mind? There's a lot of things you don't know that I don't know, right? We don't know how that person's going to respond. We don't know how we're going to respond sometimes. Sometimes we don't have the exact right words to say. Sometimes it might not be the time. But we're making choices day by day, and how are we making those choices? What is the environment of our thoughts during that time, our heart, our motivation? That's much more important to God, I believe. And I want to just let that sit into your spirit for a moment. Because we judge ourselves the way the world judges us, right? And then we judge them by the same thing, but God judges differently. What does it profit a man if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul? You can be so successful and still be a complete failure, right? But I want to be the right kind of loser. You know, I have plenty of experience losing. I feel like I lose something, you know, several things at least on a weekly basis, you know, several times a week, maybe several times a day. There are those days as well. You know, I remember there was a show a long time ago called The Biggest Loser. And I was never on it, by the way. I was always on the opposite side. I was always trying to gain weight, and because I was scrawny. And at one point, I was kind of successful. I was about 30, 40 pounds heavier than I am right now, but I can't keep on any weight now because, I have to watch what I eat. But that the goal of it was to, lose as much weight as possible on that show. I remember working with a woman at a grocery store when I was in high school, and she was going on a diet and said, "Oh, you're trying to lose weight?" And she said, "No, no, no, no. I am discarding it, because if I say I'm losing it, my body's going to try to go and find it again." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So you're just kind of like, turning that around. Okay, I got you. No, I'm discarding it because it's bad. And you know what? There's a lot of wisdom in that. There's a lot of things that we should discard because it's bad. We should discard some preconceived ideas of what my success looks like, or what I should be, or what I have to live up to in everybody else's eyes, or whatever the case might be. And we make success criteria so complicated and so basically out of our reach, we unrealistic, right? Where it's really, really simple. And it's in the Bible a couple places, but, fear God and, love your neighbor as yourself. There's not much else, right? But Paul understood that, his goals, his prior goals earlier in his life were not worthy ones. We all strive for all these things, and he talks about this in Philippians chapter 3, verses 7 through 9. He says, "But what things were gain to me, those I counted loss for Christ. Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ, and be found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of God by faith." There's a lot in there, including a reference to dung. But besides that, he was saying that all that stuff that I thought was important is worthless. It's more than worthless. It's stuff that you're supposed to flush and get rid of and never look again. Nobody goes around and saying, "Hey, you know what I flushed this morning?" We forget about it. Right? If you don't remember anything else. Hey, Paul's words, not mine. It's in the Bible. It's fair game. But he goes on to say that is how unimportant that it is. Everything else, all those other goals, all those other things that I had cooked up in my mind that were important. And I'm sure he had a criteria. He said, I'm a Hebrew of the Hebrews. In another place, I was a tribe of Benjamin. I did all these things. I learned at the feet of Gamaliel. I'm a free man, all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. I had papers from the high priest to go and persecute these. I was the big cheese. And all those things are worthless. All those accolades, all those titles, all those things that I was striving for before was a fool's errand. And all I want now is to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings. What a weird value system. That's what everybody else would have thought, but Paul was sold on that. And we need to be sold on things of true value. In the sense where we start understanding that my life has a lot of value to the Lord, and he has the true value for me. Man. And see, so he's happy. I've lost all things so that I might gain him. But there's so many lies that want to seep into our spirit, and if we allow it, will taint us, will torture us, will drive us absolutely mad. We go through these things. It's like if you fail, it means you're not enough. You're not good enough, right? If you mess up at work, you're obviously, a couple apples short of a full cart. If your kids aren't acting right, it's because you're a bad parent. If you go down the line, if that person doesn't like me, it's because I'm just not good enough. Whatever the case might be, on and on and on, and we just sit and we mull over these things, and it just sits into our spirit until it just becomes intertwined with our heart, and we can't think outside of that, and that gets dangerous. The lie is that you have to be enough, that you're never going to be enough, but you're supposed to strive to be enough. But only He's enough. Only He's enough for that person's needs and my own needs. I can't be Jesus to everybody in the sense that, I'm going to supplant the Lord. I'm not that. I can point them to Jesus, and that's what I'm supposed to do. But I can do that. One of the best ways I can do this, say, He saved a sinner like me. He saved something broken like me. He can do that for you. It's not by showing how perfect I am, because I'm nowhere near that. I just said the word dung before. Right? But only He's enough. Psalm 55:22 says, cast thy burden upon the Lord, and He shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. He's got you. Cast your burden upon Him. When I feel like that, when I feel disappointed or discouraged, I say, this is bothering me. And, maybe that I remember my friend who's no longer serving you, Lord, and I'm praying for him. It bothers me. But you're going to sustain me in this. It tears my heart out about all these things that I try to do my best and I feel like I failed. But Lord, you know my heart and you know my efforts. You know that I did it with true intentions. And if you have that, you're ahead of the game. Most people don't. Most people are trying to get some accolades or other thing or chasing some other thing. But if you're truly trying to do the work of the Lord, if you're truly trying to just be closer to Him than you were yesterday, that's a win. And that's never going to be anything less than a win, right? But you're setting yourself up for failure when you have those false targets or the results, the things that I can put down on my resume, the things that I can, tell everybody else about and say, oh, yeah, look at me. Look at all the things that I did. That will lead you down the wrong path. It's the endless rat race, the fullness farce. Oh, at one point I will be full. I remember hearing a testimony of a musician, how he was just, had all these accolades, and he finally got the accolade that he had been searching for and seeking for, and at the end he just felt like he heard this voice and say, well, what's next? There is nothing else. I achieved it, and it just felt so empty. It felt so hollow. And it came to an epiphany. It's like, what am I doing this all for? Why? What is this all about? And he felt the emptiness, which finally led him to Christ. But the enemy wants us to chase trophies. He wants us to seek validation. Am I a good person? And, the world is not a good judge of that at all. It calls evil good and good evil all the day long. And so you're not going to get a very good signal from that whatsoever. But we're supposed to abide in Him, abide in our Lord. Recently I was convicted. I was about something that I did. And I'm going to turn it around a little bit. It was actually the way that I responded to one of my daughters, and they had felt that they had fallen short, and I'm not going to say who it was. Don't worry, they're all here. Or what it was about, but they had felt that they had fallen short. And I saw the honest, sincere intention. And I don't care about the results. And in that moment, I was just like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how far short you thought your intentions were good. Your heart was in the right place. And I'm looking down, I'm kneeling down, and I feel the Lord just drop that scripture in my mind. If you being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more shall your heavenly Father? Because I was complaining about, oh, God, you have... I try to do all these things, and I feel like I'm set up to fail. Where are you, God? All these things that I have all these things that are just not happening the right way, that it's going in the opposite direction. My heart was in the right place. God's not sweating it. He's not sweating that I don't have all these accolades to show for Him and bring up before Him. And He's the one whose train fills the temple. He's the victor, not me, right? And so I felt convicted about that. And it's like, yeah, I just need to trust you more. I just need to believe in you more and just rest in you and wait patiently for you, not fret myself anyways to do evil, because some of that stinking thinking was evil, and I'm sorry. If you being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, You ever you look at a little precious heart and they try to do their best and their ice cream fell on the floor? Do anything for that. I'm going to make it right. Don't worry about it. I got you. I don't mind buying another one. But we weren't called to produce. We were called to be conduits. There's a huge difference. We don't produce the goods. We just make a doorway through which Christ can flow. And that's what we're called to do, right? Winning is not chasing. Winning is planting your feet on the solid rock and just staying there. If the world is going to fall apart because you can't hold it together, then you got a problem, Martha, right? Martha, Martha, Martha. When anybody talks to you, says your name several times, the more times they say it, the more in trouble you are in. When Jesus says your name more than once, Martha, Martha. The dangerous thing is that you can get so delusioned that you become like Nabal, and your heart becomes absolutely unreachable. We read about Nabal in the Old Testament. At one point, it just said his heart died within him. And I'm assuming like life just wasn't going the way he wanted it to. And he just became stone-faced. He became completely unreachable. And that's a dangerous place to be. When you set your goals up in the wrong way, pointing towards the wrong things, you will fail. You will lose the wrong way. But I want to lose the right way. Isaiah 1:19 says, if you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. In the other versions that we play in our minds, if you do enough and strive enough and have enough and do all the right things, you'll eat the good of the land. No, just if you're willing and obedient. Pretty simple, isn't it? Willing and obedient. I can do that. It's actually kind of hard, though. But we're working on it, aren't we? The results aren't up to you. We can only control our own heart and where we place our affection. That's really about it. There's not much we can control. But Ecclesiastes 11 kind of puts the right way to go about it, I think, pretty succinctly. It says, cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. Wow, that was deep. Do you have any idea what the writer is saying here? He that observeth the wind shall not sow. He that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. You want me to translate that for you? Verse 1, just keep doing what's right. Verse 2, just keep doing what's right because you'll never have this opportunity again, and you don't know how many more you'll have, if any, opportunities. Verse 3 through 6, stuff's going to happen. Nothing you can do about it to change it. But don't let that change your faithfulness. So, don't look at all the stuff going around you. Because if you don't sow, you're not going to reap. Guaranteed. If you don't obey, if you don't listen, it's not going to work. Because you don't know what God's going to do. And it says, either this or that, or they're both going to be good. Just cast your bread upon the water. Just go out and be faithful every day, right? Say the prayers every morning and at night or whatever, and just keep following the Lord. Keep reaching out to him. Simple stuff. Just be a Christian day by day. Try to have the right attitude. Try to seek him better. Try to learn from your mistakes and go forward each and every day. Just one more step forward. If you stumble a little bit, just get back up and keep going. Say sorry for my failures. Reach out to the Lord authentically and just take that next step with Jesus. John chapter 15 puts it pretty eloquently, and I'll I'm getting ready to end soon. I'm not saying for music to come. Okay, you just stay right there. Stay. Because I might be lying. I'll leave you in suspense about that. But John 15 was one of the first passages that I really studied when I first got in church, and it just captivated me so much. And I'm just going to read it for you, starting in verse 5. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, he can do nada, nothing. Zip, zilch, goose egg, nothing. So, going on in John chapter 15, there's a lot of really good stuff in that passage. Jesus speaks on how each of us, the branches, are actually, later on it says, we're cleansed, we're purged. And in one place he says, he's going to take our fruit and he's going to purge it. He's going to take it away. That doesn't sound fun. And it's not. You can't just joy in that one accolade that you got. It's gone. All right? We got to move on to the next thing, right? The branches are just bringing forth that fruit, and he's purging it, that it may bring forth more fruit. And in that passage, he talks about now you're clean through the word which is spoken unto you, and it's the same exact Greek word in that. Kathero, however you pronounce it. I'm probably butchering it. And it's actually the root word for catharsis. Do you know what catharsis is? It's not a disease. Catharsis is basically kind of the expunging of like really bad stuff out of you. You think of it that way. Like if you have a really bad day and you go home and you just do your favorite thing and just puts you at ease and relax, that's cathartic. All the like junk is draining out of you. And it's usually used in a connotation of something like emotional, spiritual. It's a cleansing, it's a purging, it's a cleaning, it's a making you whole again. You're getting used and abused out in the world. You're striving. You're just all this energy. You need to replenish. You need to be restored. You need to be revitalized. That's what it's doing. That's the circuit of this path that's going on, and that's what we're supposed to be. We are changed. We are strengthened, and that purging process happens. And sometimes it's I would like to kind of glory in that a little bit more. Let's just leave it there for a moment, Lord, and let everybody see. No, that's not what it's about, right? You have that thing. Let's move on to the next one. Let's produce more fruit, right? Let's bring forth more of the fruit of the Spirit. But 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 7 says this, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than that of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto the praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. Your faith is going to be strengthened. That's the Lord's goal. Until the day that He comes, He's going to be working on us. We're not there yet. We're not perfect yet, but we are being perfected day by day. We are losing more and more of the junk. We're becoming more like Him. That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? And those are the best things to lose. Everything that's not of you. Every attitude that I have, every thought that I had, every proclivity that I have that's not like you, Jesus, continue to purge that out of me. Just take that away from me. Make me more like you. And through that, just reapplying ourselves day in and day out, just trusting in the Lord, allowing Him to do those works is what we are called to do. We're supposed to. He's the vine. We're the branches. We can't do anything without Him. But if we abide in Him, we're going to bring forth that fruit. Now, conversely, it says a few verses down, if anybody doesn't abide in me, they're cast forth as a branch and they're withered. Have you ever felt withered? Well, maybe you need to get plugged back in. Maybe you just need to go to His Word. Maybe you need to hear some uplifting songs. Maybe you need to just spend some time in prayer and worship Him and just say, you know what, today wasn't a great day, but I know you're still good. And I still trust you. Because all the junk in this thing and all of the stuff that I got wrong or whatever the case might be is dung. I just want to win a closer walk with you, Lord. I want to know you more. I want to know the real thing. And in that is when we're winning. So that's the right way to lose. I wonder if we could, we're going to end here. Good as place as any. But I want to challenge you, and I want to pray with you before we go tonight. I want you to think of something that discourages you. Something that maybe hits close to home. You know, maybe I failed in this. Maybe this is my weak area. Maybe I don't treat these people right, or whatever the case might be. Think about it. Hold that in your head. Where are your motives in that? You want to see, what would you want to see? And if your motives are good, God can do a lot with that. If your motives aren't good, then you need to pray about that. If you harbor iniquity in your heart, the Lord is not going to hear you, right? That's what His word says, and I believe it. But if we are honest and sincere, I've actually been in a place where I've said, I don't want to forgive yet, but I want to. And that's a start, right? And so I'm just going to sit down with you, Lord, and I want you to teach me how. And I've done things like that, and it's hard to hold on to that kind of stuff when you just start meditating and thinking about the cross and what He did for us. And it just starts to get easy when the Lord comes and He helps you, because you can't do anything without Him, but with Him. With Him, you can do anything. Amen? And I want you to believe that. That big clog that's inside of you needs to come out. And He's going to take the heavenly Drano to get it out. Whatever is necessary. But He knows how to do it. Thank you so much for coming. And again, just remember, God's going to do a work in you.